All right, we're back here on the Chase Notes podcast, taping this on a Wednesday evening. Josh Ward, 991 The Animal, Josh and Swain is here. He has been just spending all of his free time grinding the 49ers tape for the last couple of years because his Raiders are entering the Jimmy Garoppolo zone. So it's a new era. Josh, are you excited about Jimmy Garoppolo time in Vegas?
Well, the team's a lot better looking, so the fan base are going to spread out over demographics more. I like Jimmy G. I think he's been a solid quarterback who has clearly had the respect of his teammates. What's the ceiling? I don't know that it's as high as other guys that have been starters for the last 5+ years in the league, and there's the injury concern. He's had a number of injuries, but he is a veteran who his teammates, I think, will kind of rally around with him coming in, and they maybe need that. As Derek Carr has been there for so long, you want somebody to come in and be trusted. So, yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be an interesting time in Vegas. I mean, nothing would surprise me with them. Darren Waller just out the building. Do we know if it was because of a wedding invite situation? Like, it's just nothing is ever normal with the Las Vegas Raiders.
No, there's always some kind of storyline. But yeah, speaking of injuries, he's dealt with them. So
yeah,
guys come and go more quickly than we ever expect in the NFL. That's the nature of the business.
There you go. A couple coworkers though. Max Crosby, coworker here at Blue Wire. He's with the Raiders. A lot of fun there. Darren Waller also has his own show, but he's not a Raider anymore. But very pro Raiders on this podcast. Josh, I want to pick your brain before I pick. I guess I'm going to say pick your brain way too many times in this podcast. Before we talk at Vols FAU, because I feel like you've had to talk about that a lot this week on Josh and Swain. So the folks should go check out if they're not already. For all my local Knoxvillians who listen to this, but spring practice got underway for Tennessee football, and I wonder from your perspective, what do you think is the most important / intriguing position battle this spring, with just how much depth is now on this roster? What do you think is the most important?
I think it's in the secondary because Tennessee signed a lot of defensive backs, guys that are talented, guys that have speed for a reason. Tennessee needs to upgrade in the secondary, and maybe that upgrade happens by players coming back and improving. New players coming in will compete. They're talented, and they're going to push for playing time. But this isn't a situation where Tennessee has nobody available, so guys that sign play because they have to. There are a lot of bodies back there in the defensive backfield, and some guys that can play in different positions, like Danico Slaughter coming back, can play corner, line him up at safety, star. You have Warren Burrell, who was a starter, needed to play better, I think, a lot of the time, but also had the trust of the coaches, but then he suffers an injury and is out for the second half of this past season. He'll be back with a chance to regain his starting position. So it's not one player versus another. To me, it's this entire group of defensive backs with young players coming in like Matthews out of Baton Rouge and Gibson and John Slaughter. So you could have two Slaughters out there on the field in the secondary, which would be great for NIL. But John Slaughter was not as highly touted as like a Jordan Matthews or even Christian Conyer, depending on which service, as some had him as the top player in the state of Kentucky. But Slaughter's a guy that got talked about very quickly after he arrived for bowl practice in December. So the competition there is, to me, the biggest deal. They needed more of that on defense, especially in the defensive backfield, and that should make them better.
Yeah, I wonder too, because I was watching the I don't want to call them a post game presser, but just watching y'all put up 991 The Animal, the different interviews, the post practice pressers, which is a fun alliteration there. Matthews is just like the most polished of the bunch, where it's like he talks like a pro. Like that guy, Jordan Matthews does not talk like a true freshman who should still be in high school right now. Like that's really where he should be at this moment. Like in our lives, a normal kid's life, like you're just getting ready to graduate high school, and he talks like a pro. Like he just talks like a 7-year vet. The way he's cool, calm, collected in his answers. I don't know. I was kind of blown away by Jordan Matthews.
Yeah, and we have to be careful sometimes, but there might be a connection to if he looks comfortable. He's been around the game for a long time. He probably had the fanciest commitment video of everybody in this class. I'm trying to think off the top of my head, but when he did the surprise announcement to a lot of people where Texas
Nico's was
was
pretty
thought to be
fancy.
the time. Yeah. I'm kind of I always remove Nico from conversation.
Yeah.
Like, there's Nico, and then there's the rest of the class.
Yeah.
With all due respect to everybody, but Jordan had some production value and a surprise element. So part of that is maybe that's the mentality of a corner. You have to be confident out there. You are not going to win battles, and when you lose a battle on defense, especially in the secondary, you get talked about and pointed at. So I don't know. Maybe that's going to help him. What also helps is that he's talented. He's a well thought of player out of Baton Rouge. So he decides not to go to LSU, decides not to go to Texas. They really wanted him, both schools, and those are schools that recruit the best of the best talent and athletes. And that's a reminder of what Tennessee was trying to do. Somebody like Matthews or Ricky Gibson late. Georgia was pushing for him. Conyer was coveted by Kentucky. You might think, well, Kentucky, but Kentucky wants to hold on to its top in-state talent. So schools that Tennessee will go up against, Tennessee beat them out. But Matthews, maybe that's a sign that he can pick things up and he'll be comfortable in that role because he has to compete and he has to be ready to play in the SEC because you're going to face the best receivers in the country.
That kid just got star written all over him. I would just not be surprised. If I had to bet on anybody out of the secondary, it's probably Matthews to pop the earliest. But I also will say the defensive line, I think, is super fascinating this spring because like everything you read and listen to, it's like James Pierce got a lot bigger. And then you look at, Caleb Herring, who is huge. Watch him. Another guy where I'm like, he's pretty talented. Like, are they going to rotate? Is he going to get in the rotation? There's some opportunities with Byron Young out the door and Tyler Barron just kind of banged up, and we'll see what he looks like this fall, but he's been around for a long time. He almost entered the portal, right? Like last year. That feels like forever ago.
He did last year for about a day.
Yeah.
It was one of the quickest portal entries and exits of the year. He may have set the record. I don't know.
Yeah. But then you have Joshua Josephs. Like, there's a lot of intriguing young talent, obviously, and Davian Bradley coming in, and then Omar Norman Lott. And, I'm very curious to see what the rotation looks like for the defensive line this spring.
Yeah, Herring is intriguing. You mentioned him because he's added weight pretty quickly, I think, since he arrived, and he's a terrific athlete, one of the top players in the state. And he's coming in to try to push those guys from last year's class. Like I like Josephs a lot, and staff appeared to as well because he continued to get some playing time last year. We talked about on our radio show, it's Josh Heupel's birthday this week. What gift would you give him? And I said I'd give him a light bulb to be able to flip the switch for Josephs and James Pierce because they have obvious talent. And as second-year players, you often look at that year 1 to year 2 jump, and if they could get a big jump out of Josephs and Pierce and still have somebody like Herring who can come on and Roman Harrison is back, you could maybe build out more depth of pass rushers on this defense. Because if Tennessee is better on the edge and is better in the secondary, the defense is going to be better. And the defense was pretty good at being opportunistic and making plays. If they do more of that, but they're consistently better, well, then Tennessee's football team could be better. And the offense has a lot to replace, so that's a part of the equation. But if this defense is better, and I thought last year was underrated, South Carolina game was awful, so then remove that again. But everything else over the course of the season, Tennessee's defense was actually better than I expected. Now they might be better personnel-wise, which would be a big help in moving forward.
I agree. Transfer you think the Vols will love the most this fall? What's your early guess on this?
Well, depends on what you're kind of into, but my first guess here is Dante Thornton because of his skill set. He was a big play guy at Oregon, averaging more than 21 yards per catch last year. 6'5", 200-pound receiver. He's going to look the part walking out on the field.
Did you see him standing next to Squirrel this week?
There's a difference. There's a difference. But this offense it's pretty receiver friendly if you've noticed it the last couple of years. So I think fans are going to love seeing what he can do, but it's also going to be spread out in this offense. Squirrel's going to have his opportunity. Ramel Keaton, Brew McCoy, they're going to do some things. But in terms of big playability with Hyatt gone, Thornton is somebody that can help replace there. Most important though, so like who do you love the most or who ends up being the most important? There's several guys that are candidates there. I think John Campbell coming from Miami is really important at tackle because Darnell Wright last year was arguably the most important player in the jump that Tennessee was able to make because of how good he was and how much better the offensive line was at protecting the quarterback. They were near the bottom in the SEC in 2021 in sacks allowed and made a big jump a lot to do with Darnell Wright becoming a first-round pick, it looks like, in the NFL draft. So Campbell from Miami, and then on defense, both guys from BYU. Keenan Pili at linebacker, they need to be better at that position. They have guys to replace. So he's a much older guy that comes in with a lot of experience. And then Judy Lawley, he's a part of that just overall conversation in the secondary. He's a veteran who was at Vanderbilt, went to BYU last year, and now is at Tennessee. And he's going to push. He's coming in to start. That's his plan. He's not coming in. His goal is to get to the NFL. He wants to play well at Tennessee on a big stage in the SEC and go to the NFL. So he's not thinking, I could be a nice reserve DB. So having him come in, I think, is really valuable to the other players as well. So now I've just started to list all the transfers. So I say fans will be most excited about Thornton, and he'll maybe make the biggest, quote, splash. But those other guys are all really valuable.
I think it might be a lot. I listened to Dante Thornton with Austin Price on the Vol Club last week, and he was just like, he's a workhorse. Like, he doesn't stop. Like, he's always working 7 days a week. Where I'm like, this dude might be just a machine with Rodney Gardner this year. Like, Tennessee fans have been dying for a consistent pass rush, and if Omar Norman Lott is just wrecking havoc inside, and kind of in a way, Matthew Butler kind of takes that Matthew Butler role for Tennessee this year, even if it's 1 year. I feel like there's some he's one to monitor.
Yeah, he absolutely deserves a mention. So you're right to bring him up too, because you need a lot of guys there, and you have Byron Young, who's gone, and Latrell Bumpus has been he was a valuable player for Tennessee, a leader on the defensive line, and he's gone. And competition applies to the defensive line just like every position group, but rotation applies there more than any position group. I would argue. You just have to have a lot of guys that are ready to play a lot of snaps, and you also have to plan for injury that's going to occur. Like, you want depth on the offensive line, but you're not rotating through the offensive line. You are on the defensive line. So Norman Lott coming in is really important for Tennessee too.
Yeah, I'm excited no matter what. Ball position coach under the most pressure going into this year is who?
Well, I guess when you have to take over the tight ends position, and you're also replacing the OC who handled that spot in Alex Golish. So I would probably go there, because you're also that's the position where I guess they're most thin, at least going in. I mean, they bring back Jacob Warren, and we'll see what Castles is able to do, and we'll see who else can step up. And they have a talented freshman who's going to be a part of the group, but it's still the biggest unknown. And Princeton Fant was a big player there. So that to me would be the spot where there's the most pressure. I mean, I can't. Like, maybe Joey Halsley, the quarterback's coach, because he's also becoming the OC, and there's pressure to keep things going there with the quarterback position. But some of that pressure is also on Josh Heupel, and I also have a benefit of the doubt that I'm giving that's going to work out. So, the secondary too. I'm kind of running through candidates in this conversation. Like, literally, maybe there's some pressure because Willie Martinez has a contract that runs out at the end of the season, and they do need the secondary to play better. They need to be more consistent at corner. So that might actually be the answer. Is Willie Martinez, as good as he's been and as much of a veteran as he is, if we're just talking about this year, the 2023 season, it's probably Willie Martinez in the secondary, just because of the contract, which can make an obvious pressure point, and then the need to be better there as opposed to some other positions.
He's just such an ace recruiter. Like, Willie is, I think, top 10 recruiter on 247 right now, nationally. Like, you look at the talent, like Jordan Matthews, we talked about Ricky Gibson, Christian Conyer. Like, he's brought in a lot of talent. I just feel like he deserves a pass for what he was working with, especially the injuries down the stretch last year and having to move guys around. It's like, you're playing safety this week, you're playing corner next week. I don't know. The fans who are up on Willie Martinez, I'm like, I think he's more safe than, like, Glenn Ellerby is my number one here, where it's like, all right, we're going to keep like, Darnell Wright, like you said, is out. Darnell Wright's gone. We're now getting to the point where they're going to be Heupel's offensive linemen. And we're going to be at a point where there's no 5 stars anywhere on this offensive line. It's not going to be the Jeremy Pruitt all 5 stars across the offensive line that they're going to talk about in the Georgia-Tennessee game, where it's like only 5 stars for Tennessee. That's a big thing across the board. He's betting on developing. He's betting on winning in the portal with the Gerald Minceys and the John Campbells of the world. We're going to see if that pays off. Like, I think Glenn Ellerby, for me, has the most pressure on him, because if those tackles are bad this year, Joe Milton's not moving around in the pocket. Joe Milton's taking some sacks. He's not doing what Hendon's able to do behind maybe some suspect offensive line play. it can get ugly in a hurry. Like, that's the one I have
Yeah.
circled.
Well, if Darnell's the most difficult player to replace,
Yeah.
then the pressure can come back to the offensive line coach to
Mm,
help replace him. I think Ellerby's really good. I think
yeah.
he's a really good coach, and you are correct that there's no physical replacement for Darnell, like
Mm,
expecting Campbell or Mincy or Crawford to play like Darnell. Darnell is a freak
mm,
at his size to move the way that he does. He did not come in and make a 5-star impact on the field early in his time, but he's even said, "Yeah, I survived on athleticism."
mm-hmm.
There aren't many people that can survive on athleticism playing on the offensive line in the SEC. So that in itself is a statement. But then Ellerby, I think, played a big role and Wright put in the work to become what he is now,
Mm,
where he's a coveted tackle in the NFL. So expecting that out of Campbell or Mincy or anybody else would be unfair. Campbell has played a lot, and he's a well thought
mm,
of player coming in from Miami. So I think with this offense and the system and the communication between Heupel and Ellerby and Halsley, with the amount of time they've worked together, I think they'll get that figured out. And choosing Willie Martinez doesn't seem fair because he's a
yeah.
veteran defensive backs coach who's been so respected. And you think about Cam Sutton, who just got his new big
Yeah.
contract with the Detroit Lions. He came in to Tennessee and played under Willie Martinez
Mm-hmm.
and talked about how he was good for young defensive backs. So
Mm-hmm.
his veteran voice with this group that is competing, I think it's of value to Tennessee.
I would agree.
But pressure has to be placed on somebody in this question. So
Mm,
I would just the offense. I think the weight of it comes back to Josh Heupel because it's his offense. Defense kind of gets spread around, and the secondary I think is where a lot of people are pointing right now.
we'll wrap up with basketball. What do you think ultimately happens against FAU on Thursday night?
I think Tennessee wins. I think
Okay.
Tennessee's better. The fear, which is a natural part of the conversation when you get to this point in the tournament, is FAU hits a bunch of shots from the outside,
Mm,
and Tennessee misses a bunch of shots because that's been a problem at times too. But I think Tennessee is the better team from a talent standpoint. The way that they're locked in, their ability to defend on the perimeter, and rebounding the basketball is going to be really important. Those second chance shots for FAU, that's going to really matter. But I think Tennessee carries over. There's been all this talk from the Duke game, everything that's been said nationally, and the defense that's kind of been put up figuratively, I guess, and then
mm-hmm.
literally on the court. So that'll provide some motivation. I think that only goes so far. Both teams are motivated. It's the Sweet
Mm-hmm.
16. They're trying to get to the Elite Eight, and they're trying to go. Yeah, but both probably consider themselves underdogs. But I think Tennessee's better. I think Tennessee, with the preparation, as long as it avoids mistakes, turnovers have been costly, missed shots have been costly. But yeah, that matters for everybody. The FAU saying the same thing. Hey, if we can't hit shots, we're not going to win. So
Mm-hmm.
that applies both ways. I think Tennessee will be locked in again defensively, and I think Tennessee will move on. Next round is going to be tough, whether you're playing Michigan State or Kansas State. That's going to be really difficult for different reasons, but worry about that if you get there. First things first, you have to be locked in. Tennessee can't let up. I don't think it'll happen, but if Tennessee lets up, FAU is good enough to win the game.
Should Tennessee fans feel good about this season no matter what happens on Thursday night?
That is a tricky question. My thought last week was if
Mm-hmm.
Tennessee gets to the Sweet 16, successful year.
Yeah.
And I said that won't be everybody, but I think most will think that. And I
Mm-hmm.
still think that's probably true because getting to the Sweet 16 is a pretty big deal. It's happened
Mm-hmm.
9 times in Tennessee's history. And a lot of fans didn't expect it a week ago. So for it to happen and to beat Duke to get there, I think is a really big deal for fans. But it also will be easy if Tennessee loses to FAU to say, yeah, but we turned around and lost to Florida Atlantic. So
Mm-hmm.
my answer is yes, that this is a successful year, considering the injuries that they had to battle through in the regular season and losing Zakai, that getting to the Sweet 16 and beating Duke and having that kind of performance is something that fans will forever be able to talk about. And there might be some fans that right now agree, and then if Tennessee loses, will disagree. So
Mm-hmm.
that's another reason that winning this game is so important, because there's no question. If Tennessee wins this game and gets to its second Elite Eight ever, this is a tremendous season. And it'd be one where it would have a frustrating memory from the regular season, but fans would wipe it away and say, remember how we went to the Elite Eight. And, the last team that went to the Elite Eight was not expected to go there. It was a 6 seed that made it. So there's something about being unexpected for Tennessee in the tournament and turning around and doing something with it.
I'm just terrified about Tennessee Bama in a Final Four matchup.
Yeah, should be because
That week, a talking point. Oh my
Bama's terrific.
god.
I'll welcome it as a radio show host because
Yeah.
my
Will
goodness,
you, Josh? Are you sure? Are you sure you want
Yeah.
those calls? Are you
That-
sure you want
that-
Knoxville when we get Knoxville, Alabama in this kind of matchup? Are we sure
Yeah.
we want this?
Tennessee, Alabama.
Josh Ward just wants to watch the world burn. I never pegged
matter
you
the
as a
sport.
Joker guy. Yeah.
Hey, what? But if you win the game, like think about. I was telling Swain on the radio, I was like, hey, what if you can get Alabama in the SEC tournament and then match up with them in the NCAA tournament? It's a chance to sweep. It's like, hey, I'm good there. But if Tennessee could win again, you beat them in football and sweep them in basketball, fans would take that one forever. Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, take your shot. But Tennessee fans probably just pulling for San Diego State to knock out Alabama, and you never have to worry about that.
How many Twitter videos do we see of just fan interactions of Tennessee and Alabama fans going? The discourse.
In the game or in jail together? Which one?
Oh my god. There's just so many. Like, I'm just ready for. It's going to be a nightmare. My group text with the family group text is going to be a nightmare. It's I'm not ready for it, Josh. But that's a real possibility. I think Tennessee's making the Final Four. Like, I think they're going to make it through, and I don't think Alabama's losing either. And if we're on a collision course, just the ratings. And it's going to be must-see television if we do get that rematch, even without Zakai this time.
Yeah, it'd be incredible, and you'd be fearful of having to play the game without Zakai, but they beat Alabama earlier this season without Julian Phillips and Josiah. So that was a game we're going in. It's like, well, Tennessee's not at full strength, probably just not going to win the game. And I like Tennessee's chances going into that game. And if they play in the Sweet 16 again, the Final Four again, I'm probably going to lean toward Alabama winning that game. But Tennessee's going to have a real shot. If Tennessee's in the Final Four, Tennessee is a title contender. They're not going to be one of those teams where you're like, well, good for them, but they can't win two more. If Tennessee can win the title, Tennessee can win the national title. It also could lose in the Sweet 16, but there are a number of teams that applies to. Arizona could have gone to the Final Four, lost to Princeton. So that's the beauty and the heartache of this tournament. This tournament is not the best way to crown a champion if you're looking to find the best team, but it's the most entertaining, and it is the most it opens up the most opportunity. Other sports only have so many teams that can realistically win the title. This year we heard over and over again, a bunch of teams can win it, and I think that is true.
We'll end it here, Josh. Your best dad joke that's been a hit in the Josh Ward household of late was what?
That's a good one. So this I can give you a couple probably.
Okay.
This I was accused of. I've repeated it too many times. This is a personal favorite. It's not the best,
Mm-hmm.
but why does a coffee drinker have a difficult time getting a date?
Oh no.
Because
Why?
he has an ugly mug.
Oh.
It's pretty good, right? I think it's really good.
I like that. That's pretty good.
This one got mixed reviews, so I think it's good. So this is off the top of my head. This is a recent one. Where do you take someone who suffers an injury in a peekaboo game?
Where do you take him, Josh?
To the ICU. Yeah, I'll finish with a classic. Why did the Scarecrow win an award?
Why?
Because he was outstanding in his field.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh no.
Yep.
Oh, that was great. That was great.
Yeah. We were gifted a book for our show this week that was titled "Bad Dad Jokes," and I said, "Well, it's there's a misprint. There's no such thing as bad dad jokes." So
There you go.
there are never enough, in my opinion.
I love that.
Thanks for humoring me.
Oh no, those are good. I like those. I need to take them down. You never know. I might need those one day.
Yeah, keep them handy.
Yeah, you can never have too many. Josh Ward, what do you want to plug here? Monday through Friday. Wow, Josh and Swain. I was about to say Swain and Josh. Josh and Swain, 991.
Yeah,
The
Swain
Animal.
did that. We were talking about we need to get some mugs printed. He said, "Yeah, we can put Swain and Josh mugs." So he was putting his name first. So wide receiver, he'll be happy to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, appreciate it. 12 to 3 Eastern time, Monday through Friday. We have Josh and Swain on the Sports Animal, and we have a lot of fun. Swain has a lot of insight as a former player at Tennessee. So we have a lot of fun. We have the Josh and Swain newsletter as well that we've started up here in the last month. So I'll plug that if you don't mind. JoshandSwain.com. Subscribe. It's weekly, and it's not going to flood your inbox. So we do it at the end of the week to kind of wrap things up. So anywhere you want to listen to us, you can find us.
And it's on YouTube. It's a live stream every day. It's good. I have it on the
Yeah.
background. I like the live stream. I like the live video stream.
Yeah, we kind of behind the scenes, Swain and I, and Swain had a lot of the vision for it. We put the little studio together ourselves. So it's just us in there hanging out, having a good time. So chance for people to watch and or listen. I've heard for years have a face for radio. So face for radio
here.
and the internet now. So we get to have fun, audio, video, all of it.
We're all of it now, man. Like, who would have thought in journalism school? They're like, you're going to actually do everything now. It's just, you can't run from video. People want to see your face for whatever reason when you're talking.
Yeah, well, the internet was still pretty new when I was in journalism school.
Yeah.
So it's come a long way.
There you go. Josh Ward, thank you as always. And I'll have to talk to you again soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me.